Father Spitzer's Universe. I'm Doug Keck at the intersection of faith and reason. I'm your host, coming to you today, a special program coming to you live from our West Coast studio on the campus of Christ Cathedral in Orange County, California. As you can see, our topic today is Father Spitzer's book, God So Loved the World, Clues to Our Transcendent Destiny from the Revelation of Jesus. And this is a special program because I get to be with Father Spitzer in the studio, but you can still email us questions at spitzer'suniverse@ewtn.com, of course, Spitzer's Universe, and post your questions at facebook.com/EWTN online hashtag. It's FS for Father Spitzer Universe, and send us a tweet as well, twitter.com/EWTN hashtag FS Universe. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Magis Center website, magiscenter.com as well. And it's wonderful to be here in the studio with you, Father Spitzer. People could see, obviously, we're in Orange County, California. They see the Christ Cathedral, the former Crystal Cathedral behind us. Actually, we've arranged, because of your show, a crane shot, actually, in it. I meant a high shot, but apparently there's a crane that's been cleaning the cathedral glass for quite a while, and so people might see that in the backdrop. But and it's great. You actually allowed me to be in the same studio with you for once to do this show.
Well, of course, we love having you here. The problem is you just have to make it out more often. We of course, do enjoy the Birmingham connection, but this is even better because you're even funnier in person.
Oh, okay. And you're even better looking, I have to tell you. Now that we've finished congratulating each other, let's talk about this particular topic. We're going to really focus on this book of yours, God So Loved the World, Clues to Our Transcendent Destiny from the Revelation of Jesus. It's published by Ignatius Press, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, of course. Now, this book in particular is part of a series, right?
Right. And it's really a quartet of books. And the quartet is called Happiness, Suffering, and Transcendence. The idea behind the whole quartet is to try and help people move from what we call level 1 and level 2 happiness, and that would be like, just pleasure happiness, that's level 1. Ego comparative happiness, right? Who's achieving more, who's achieving less, who's got more status, less status, that we call level 2. Helping them move from those identities to level 3 and level 4 happiness. And level 3 happiness would be contributive. Level 4 happiness would be transcendent, or faith. Happiness that comes from transcendence or faith. And the reason, for doing this is obvious, because of course we want to help people to develop and solidify their faith. But what we wanted to do is show them the importance of transcendent happiness right from the very beginning. So we cite some surveys from none other than the American Psychiatric Association. For example, a survey done in 2004 by Kenita Dervik, where she shows that non-religiously affiliated people, those who don't have a religion, by comparison with religiously affiliated people, have significantly higher suicide rates, suicide attempts, meaninglessness, despondency, fear of failure, impulse aggressivity, substance abuse, and familial tension. Now, of course, these things are just like megalithic, in terms of, well, why do we have cultural malaise? I think Kenita Dervik is in part answering this question by simply saying, because we're losing religion. And the most recent Pew survey certainly verifies that we're, young people especially are leaving religion for intellectual reasons. And that explains why we wrote, I wrote number 2 in the series, and that's called The Soul's Upward Yearning. Young people think that science is somehow opposed to God. They think that contemporary philosophy, or as one person put it in the Pew survey, rational thought has thrown religion out the window. Well, nothing could be further from the truth in the 21st century. So I had to write a book just basically looking at all the evidence for the soul and all the evidence for God, from science, from near-death experiences, from contemporary philosophical proofs of God, taking a look at all the things that have been done recently, showing how human beings are absolutely different from the whole rest of the animal world, that there really is evidence of a soul, transcendental desires, the capacity for abstract thought and language. Too much to go into now, but this book, The Soul's Upward Yearning, is trying to get young people to see, don't ever think for a moment that somehow we lost some evidence in the 20th and 21st centuries for God and the soul. Nothing of the kind could be false here. I mean, literally, the evidence is prolific.
Well, let's talk about this particular book.
Sure.
Specifically, God So Loved the World. You say in the beginning, this volume is concerned with whether the intelligent creator God manifests in logical proofs, scientific evidence, and near-death experiences, and who is the source of the numinous experience, our desire for the sacred, and the four transcendental desires for truth, love, goodness, and beauty, would want to reveal himself to us personally and ultimately. So in a sense, we're establishing that we're transcendent in some way in the earlier books. Obviously, there's a transcendent being, but now you're starting to deal with, if that's the case, why does he want to bother with us?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, science and logic and philosophy can only go so far, right? I mean, essentially, you can figure out, honestly, with science and logic, you can figure out that there is a unique, intelligent creator God that is basically, we call it an unrestricted act of thinking, which is the creator of all else that is. You can actually prove this. You can actually prove a creator of physical reality with scientific proofs like the Board of Lincoln and Guth proof, entropy evidence, etc. You can do a lot with science and logic and reason, but after a while, there are things of the heart, precisely the heart of God, that are not and cannot be proven or articulated by science. Like, for example, does God redeem suffering or doesn't he redeem suffering? Does he love you? Does he not love you? Is there a heaven and a hell? Isn't there a heaven and a hell? If there is a heaven and a hell, how do you get to heaven and how do you avoid hell? And, does God answer prayers? If he does answer prayers, how does he answer prayers? Does he inspire us? Does he guide us? Is there some kind of conspiracy of divine providence? These questions cannot be answered by science or logic, right? These are the questions of the heart, the questions of grace, and the questions that necessarily require a revelation from God. And of course, the point that I would be making from the very beginning of the book is there are these little glimmers of evidence from science and logic that God is love. And the case that I try to make is, if God is love and you view love as your highest power, right? And I'm going to define love in a moment because it could misdefine it in a whole lot of ways. But the idea, though, is if that notion of love, or agape as Christians call it, if that really is our highest power, if that's the meaning of life, then God would want to reveal himself to us. If God really, in some sense, is love, as Jesus has defined it, then he's going to want to reveal himself to us. He's not going to leave us bereft of these answers. Now, it's true. Einstein, for example, and Aristotle did believe in a God of reason and science and logic, but that God was kind of heartless, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think Einstein thought God had any emotion, and certainly Aristotle didn't. Aristotle thought, well, God is really super intelligent, but after he created us, I mean, why would he care?
Right.
We're just buffoons.
Great
and idiots
clockmaker
now.
in the
That's
sky
right.
kind of a thing, right? Kind of gets it started, walks away, says, good
That's
luck.
right. That's right.
Okay.
But Christianity just flies in the face of all of it.
And you also talk about here not only love, but unconditional love.
Yeah.
Was that different than our understanding was before Christ showed up?
There was absolutely, really no sense of an unconditionally loving God prior to there might have been a glimmer or some word we could interpret from a prophet hither and yon that might look like it, but to be very honest with you, the answer is not before Christianity. Jesus changed the world by declaring that God so unconditionally and unrestrictedly loved us that he would come to be with us and then sacrifice himself completely, obviously, on the cross, in the passion and death, right, because of that, to prove that unrestricted and unconditional love to us, and to open his kingdom to us, and to reveal who he really is, what his heart is, and what he's calling us to. Prior to Christianity, forget it. I mean, it's just not there. But after Christianity, it is there so abundantly, not just in the words of Jesus, but in the heart of the Christian community that's taking this message out, becoming, the biggest public welfare, public health, public education system in the world, literally undermining slavery and changing world culture everywhere, not just in Rome, but through all of its missionary churches around the world. So what you're dealing with at the end of the day is this remarkable event that takes place, is world changing. And you look at it and you go, wait a minute, there was this itinerant prophetic preacher and he came and he changed the whole world like this. I mean, how did he do it?
Right.
Because he was the Son of God.
Well, in chapter 3, you talk about
Exactly.
the evidence for the claims, the veracity of the claims that Jesus made. And you're saying here that recent New Testament historical research has uncovered considerable evidence for these claims. How so?
Well, first of all, with respect to the miracles of Jesus, right? This book by John P. Meyer, which people really should read. It's a hard read, but it's called A Marginal Jew, Volume 2, and about 700 pages of that work is devoted to a defense of the miracles of Jesus. And that defense is very good, but it's a tough exegetical slog using all kinds of historical criteria, but very careful scientific exegetical work is done on that. If you want the Cliff Notes version of it,
I'm listening now.
You can go, that's right, you can go right to this chapter 4 on the miracles of Jesus. And
College students would recognize that term.
That's right, exactly. So, but actually in chapter 5 too, we go through that and just kind of break down Meyer's arguments, in a much more simple way, but without undermining the integrity of the argument itself.
Now, in the next chapter after that, one of the things you talk about as well is in chapter 5, you talk about the examination. All the evidence of the world will not suffice to lead anyone to faith in Jesus Christ as Lord and Son of God. So the question is, on one level, you're sitting there proving that there's evidence for these things. In fact, you talk about the evidence for miracles. I want to ask you why you think that's important. But if you have all this evidence and that doesn't lead you to faith in God, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, the point is there has to be a movement of the heart as well. You have to want to believe in God. You have to want to believe in a loving God. You have to want to believe in the moral integrity that Jesus came to show us. In other words, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to believe in God because I don't want to be responsible to any kind of a moral authority outside of myself. Well, if you're saying that, I don't care. I could give you the evidence for the Shroud of Turin. I could bring you into Paolo di Lazzaro's lab and show you what these excimer ARF lasers are doing to show you what happened with this body, after, Jesus has been in the shroud, right? But you would never believe me. I mean, I could take you right on the scene where Jesus literally raises a young boy, but you'll find some reason, to get it. I could take you to Lourdes. I could take you through the entire index of noted and confirmed miracles by the Lourdes Medical Commission, and you'd look at it and go, those guys were biased or something. You'd find some reason why it isn't true. I could take you through all the near-death experiences you could possibly and correlate them to Christian revelation, and you'd find some reason. Now, there's a physical explanation out there. I just know if I could just get to that angular part of the parietal lobe and stimulate it, I'm sure I could produce something along the lines of a near-death experience, right? Somehow you'd find a reason if you didn't want to believe. If you didn't have any sense you were in darkness and you needed the God of light to pull you out of it, if you want to remain in the darkness, I'm not going to, wild horses, Evidence not going to pull you in. You're going to find some reason to stay in the darkness. You're going to find some reason not to be responsible to a moral authority outside yourself. You're going to find some reason not to belong to a Christian community. Even though, look at everything that Christianity has done for the world. And what do we hear as the polemic from our adversaries? Christianity had the Crusades and they had the Inquisition, and they didn't like Galileo. That proves it. They did more harm than good. I mean, this is such a revisionist view of history. You're practically sitting there doubled over in pain, listening to the ignorance of it and the elitism of it. Yet, there's no movement of the heart. And that's precisely what the problem is. All the evidence in the world can't, as there's, the rich man sitting there in Hades, and finally, he says, okay, just tell Lazarus to go to my brothers,
right,
and give them the warning, and Abraham says, no, they had Moses and the prophets, that should be enough for them. And so, oh no, Father Abraham, if they had, say, somebody coming back from the dead, then they would believe. And they said, no, if you don't believe Moses and the prophets, you're not going to believe even if someone doesn't come back from the dead. Because the problem isn't the evidence. The problem isn't the intensity, the veracity of the evidence. There's plenty of confirmed evidence, highly,
right,
efficacious evidence. It's not the problem. The problem is if you don't want to go, if you don't think you need healing, if you don't think you're in the darkness, and you got to be rescued from an evil darkness power greater than yourself, but God can rescue you from it. If you don't want to be responsible to a God outside yourself, don't worry. Wild horses won't
Well,
drag you.
I need to be responsible to our director and to take a break because we're running slightly long. Talking here with Father Robert Spitzer, and this is a special program coming to you from Christ Cathedral in California. Father Spitzer's studios out here. We've got the whole show is on God So Loved the World, clues to our transcendent destiny from the revelation of Jesus, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com, much more. Stay with us. We're live. And welcome back to our West Coast studios here on the campus of Christ Cathedral in Orange County, California. As you can see, the beautiful Christ Cathedral behind us. We're talking completely on the show all about Father Spitzer's book, God So Loved the World. And it's a wonderful resource. You can check it out through our religious catalog, of course. And we're dedicating the whole show to talking about this. We're also taking some of your questions. We'll get to those a little bit later. Let's finish off an overview. Father Spitzer, you were talking about as we move through the various things about miracles and understanding that and the importance of faith. You also talk about in the book about Jesus and God's universal offer of salvation.
Yeah.
Well, you got this universal offer of salvation, but you've also got this thing called hell. How do those two work together?
Yeah, the Catechism of the Catholic Church has an important definition and section on hell, and here's the line in a single line. Here's how they describe it. It is the definitive. It's a state of definitive self-exclusion from God and the blessed. That is to say, from the kingdom of love. Now, that word self-exclusion is very, very important. And of course, that means that God's not sending anyone to hell. And in fact, God doesn't use hell as a kind of retribution. What it does mean is human beings actually choose hell. They choose to go to that state where domination is going to be more important than respect for another person, where self-worship's going to be more important than worship of the true God,
right,
where egocentricity and narcissism are going to be more important than compassion and love. And of course, you can see, there's always a tension in our life, which way to go. And of course, that's why Jesus is constantly warning people, right? He's not angry at them. He's not telling people that, God's, just waiting to send them to hell. Far from it. God weeps if anyone makes this crazy choice to elevate themselves above God, the blessed, the kingdom of love. I mean, it's a crazy decision. Yet God gave us this awesome power of freedom. And in that power of freedom, we actually have the capacity. And we can do this. And frankly, the old Augustinian expression, there before the grace of God go I.
Right.
We can actually say, gee, I kind of like this domination stuff,
Well, you say actually on page 305 is exactly where you have this quote. You say, for these people, love, God, and others are all actually negatives.
Yeah.
While self, power, autonomy, and dominion are supreme.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's precisely the point. Once you've kind of made that series of decisions, you might be totally empty in making those decisions. You might be totally lonely in making those decisions. You might feel totally isolated from the transcendent source of your being and feel like you're alienated from yourself along with God. You might feel like you're going to miss love to the hilt. You might have despair, malaise, and darkness all on your horizon. But it's absolutely possible in the midst of all of that to go, I still like the domination, I still like the egocentricity, the narcissism, get out of my way. I want to worship myself, the one true God. Now, if you say that enough times and you never make recourse to God's mercy, you never in any way, find some definitive way of wanting to turn back, what the church says is, yeah, it's possible for you to actually choose emptiness, darkness, alienation, evil, just so you can get this extra share.
You say on page 307, self-punishment can come from a trade-off in which one accepts a negative consequence in order to procure something intensely desired, such as Faust selling his soul to the devil.
Exactly.
Do you think there are people making those Faustian
I do.
today?
It's happening all the time.
All the time?
Yeah, I think that's why the intensity of Jesus' rhetoric when he's warning us, why does he use wailing and grinding of teeth? He's worried. He's trying to say, you guys, you think that it's a cakewalk? It's not a cakewalk. We are making critical decisions during this lifetime. Don't misuse your freedom. If you do misuse your freedom, keep turning back to the infinitely, unrestrictedly compassionate God and get back into stead. Keep going back to church. Don't let yourself get separated. Don't let yourself become enticed. And Jesus warns us. He tells us, I'll tell you who to be scared of. Be scared of the one who can take body and soul after he kills you and throw you into Gehenna. That's not God. That's the evil spirit. That's Satan who can do that to you. And he says, you should be scared of him. And of course, he's still here. He's still lurking around. 2 Peter tells us he's like a roaring lion. He's looking around, to find our weaknesses and so forth.
Looking to devour us.
Devour us. He's ready. Right. Yeah, so it's a struggle, out there. But no, God is not, God's offer of salvation is absolutely universal. And that's very clear on the lips of Jesus. And of course, many people misinterpret two passages in the Gospel of John to make it look like, it's the case that Jesus is restricting salvation
for the many or something like that. It's been brought up sometimes, right? Well, let me ask you with that, just thinking in this year of mercy, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit on the show over this last year. I think some people believe, and maybe ask you, posit the idea that mercy means I can never be separated from God.
Yeah, well, you can if you choose it, and therein lies the problem. And if you notice that list that Paul gives you in Romans 8, he doesn't mention free choice. What can separate us from the love of God? Well, it's not principalities, it's not powers, it's not death, it's not the sword, it's not fire, right? And he goes through all these things, but there is one thing that can separate us from the love of God, and of course, it's our choosing to be away from the love of God. And the reason, he doesn't mention that is because the whole hymn in Romans 8 is about our subjecting ourselves to God and to God's mercy. So, the context of Romans 8, when Paul is saying, hey, if God is for us, who can be against us? If God is the one who justifies, then who's going to condemn? Let me just break that down. If God is the one justifying, then he's certainly not the one condemning. If he's not the one condemning, then who can condemn? Well, no one can condemn, right? That's the implication. But we can actually choose condemnation. No one can do it to us. We would have to do it to ourselves. I mean, it's the same thing, and when he goes through, then he says, well, then what can separate us from the love of God? There's only one thing that can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord, and that's us. If we choose to run from the mercy of God, or if we choose to undermine Christ and the mercy of God, if we choose not to take advantage of the redemption we've been given by Jesus, right, but instead go our own merry way, right, then we could actually choose, a kind of a darkness that's unremitting. And Jesus says, don't go there. Don't get to that situation. Get back to church. Get, back into the mercy of God. Bring yourself in what he calls repentance, metanoia, right? Bring yourself to repent of this so that you can be with the Lord of love.
Now, jumping back towards the beginning of the book, where things are a little brighter in some ways, and then you do set people up to deal with the end there and realize, but you give them the tools as you go through the book to get there.
Right.
The supremacy of love. This struck me. It says, you say, God is unconditionally humble, gentle, and compassionate love. How is God unconditionally anything? I mean, how could you have a condition or not have a condition with God?
Yeah, God doesn't establish the conditions on us. The only condition we have is our own freedom and the misuse of our freedom to undermine or to go contrary to God, try to become our own God. That's the condition that we impose on ourselves. But God is not imposing it on us with his love. And that's, of course, the whole point of what Paul is trying to say. Hey, if God is for us, who can be against us? He's trying to say, he who did not spare his only son, will he not give us everything else besides? Everything within his power, he will give us. Well, what's the only thing not within his power? Our choice to reject him. And of course, everything else he can give us. And of course, Paul's trying to make this argument very critically. Will he not give us everything else besides? If he's not spared his own son, then all we got to do is just keep relying on the Lord of love. But we got to watch that power of freedom that we have. It is a very, very important power, and of course, we can misuse it.
Now, you talk about the different states of love, or kind of, you talked about agape and some of the other ones already. One of the things that struck me was, and I've heard it recently, is it seems like, and you talk about the Stoic approach to virtue through an active will is not the approach of Jesus, St. Paul, and St. Francis. Now, some people would say, well, we live in this lax world today. We need a little tough love. What's wrong with the kind of Stoic approach to say, hey, you got the ability, it's your fault, fix yourself?
Yeah, well, of course, that is a Stoic approach. Jesus, though, was really trying to get us to develop hearts of compassion and hearts of peace and hearts of forgiveness. And unfortunately, the Stoic view of harder, better, faster, more, right, many times goes against that, militates against. The heart of compassion. So Jesus, that line from Ezekiel, I don't want you to have hearts of stone. I want you to have hearts of flesh. I want you to have soft hearts. I want you to be able to feel some compassion for a person, to even want to forgive a person who's really offended you. You can't do that with a hard heart, right? And if you take a look at some of these Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, right, or Epictetus and various Seneca, I mean, oh my gosh, it's pretty clear these guys, are right along the Nietzschean line of what does not kill me makes me stronger. Now that's not what Jesus, is trying to say. He's not going for strength, right? He's not going for, I can turn a granite face to the world and you will never affect me, right? This is not it at all. He wants to turn a face to the world that can accept another human being and, of course, be graciously, leading that other human being to their salvation.
You say here, the more deeply we see the goodness of the other, the more we are naturally inclined to emphasize and care for them. And the more we care for them, the more we will not want to hurt or harm them. That seems to be a lot of what I would say what the Holy Father is really trying to say this year, right?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think, he understands well. I literally stole this from the great Catholic French philosopher Gabriel Marcel. He just said, look, love begins with looking for the good news in the other. And we can't look for the good news in the other and the bad news in the other simultaneously. If we're looking for the good news, it'll contextualize the bad news. But if you're looking for the bad news, what's weak, irritating, stupid, and unkind, right? If you're looking for the bad news in the other, it will literally contextualize the good news and turn it into bad news.
Well, this book is a good example of good news, and we have much more to talk about with Father Spitzer when we come back from break. God So Loved the World is our topic. It's also the book. And check out all the things on EWTN.com for all the wonderful programming, including Mother Teresa, coming up shortly on EWTN this weekend. Much more ahead with Father Spitzer in his universe. Stay with us.
These are good questions.
And thank you for staying with us. We are live at EWTN's beautiful West Coast studio at Christ Cathedral with Father Spitzer. We're doing the show together in the same studio for the first time ever. And we're talking about his book, God So Loved the World, a wonderful resource, a book available through our religious catalog, of course. We were talking about 4 kinds of love, and let's go through those, especially, it sounds awkward for me to say, but I think if we talked about eros, because I think, unfortunately, that's what most people think about when they're thinking about love. What is storge? I remember Father Benedict Groeschel talking about couples who didn't know each other got married and somehow they learned to live together and grow together, and he called that storge. Is that what it is?
Well, actually, for C.S. Lewis and for the ancients, storge was basically affection. It was the feeling of love. So, but the problem with, the feeling of love is there's no action in it, there's no commitment in it, etc. It's just a feeling. So it's basically about 10% of love. And frankly, you could have storge for your dog. Feelings of affection are many, and of course they don't require a whole lot of it. It's just a natural response. Now, philia really is getting into a whole.
And that's where we get into friendship.
That's right.
Philadelphia and
that's right.
About that.
That's right. And of course friendships are reciprocal, right? They're mutual. So and that allows them to grow. So if I decide I'm going to commit a little bit more to you, and then you kind of commit a little bit more back to me, and I commit a little bit more of my loyalty and my future to you, and you commit a little more of your loyalty and friendship, the friendship does grow. And so friendships can grow to like best friends, where they're really is a unity with another friend.
Can there be a friendship where each one says, "Oh, we're such good friends, we don't ask anything of each other"?
No, that'd be the opposite of friendship, because the reciprocity of friendship means that there is a reciprocal expectation that comes when we commit ourselves to the other. So there has to be commitment going both ways, a commitment of future, a commitment of psychic energy, a commitment of loyalty, a commitment of time, and so forth. These kinds of commitments have to flow both ways. And without those commitments, right, the friendship would literally not exist. I mean, it would just be, drinking buddies.
Right.
And that's not a real friendship, because that can just be pure
Well, it's interesting because
lunacy.
I think it's the anniversary of Archie Bunker today, so it's drinking buddies. I think about him down at the local pub there in the corner bar in Queens there. But now the next level is Eros, and a lot of times we think about Eros and then Agape, but you've got actually Eros 1 and 2, and then Eros 3 and 4.
Right.
But both of them are under the level of romantic love.
Right.
If they're the same, how are they different?
Yeah. Well, of course, romantic love, does involve sexual feelings. It does involve, a sensitivity to the beauty of the opposite gender and so forth. It clearly has that adventure of romance that's intrinsic to it. So all these things are part of Eros 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're always going to have those characteristics involved. And of course, Eros 1 and 2, this refers to my levels, the 4 levels of happiness.
From your earlier works.
From my earlier works. And Eros 1 pretty much is, I live for the sexual gratification, that comes from, or the pleasure that comes from sexual gratification. And of course, you could get that from pornography. Is it profound? No. Is it destructive? Yes. Can it turn you in on yourself? Absolutely. Can it destroy your maturation so that you're incapable of generativity in the future because all you care about is sexual satisfaction? Yes, absolutely. Porn can destroy you. But that's Eros 1. And people say it's love, right? And of course, so that idea of Eros is out there. Eros number 2, though, remember, level 2 is kind of ego comparative. So there's a recognition of the other, but you're in the driver, you're in first place. So it's not the other first, it's me first. And so there's a confusion in Eros 2 that when somebody loves me, that's love. When someone has affection for me, that's love. When someone admires me greatly, that's love. I don't think so much about loving them, supporting them, helping them, being with them, unifying with them, right? So I haven't reached a state of generativity yet, right? I'm just thinking basically, I must be in love. I feel so good because that person admires me and finds me, a good partner, in terms of not just a generative relationship, but also a romantic relationship, finds me a good partner. Now, there's something to be said that's good about having that kind of an ego boost.
So do couples pass through that on the way to 3 and 4, or should they be
they retain some of it too, and that's healthy.
The concern that if you get stuck there.
Yeah.
And then maybe you end up with a situation, kind of a mutual using of each other.
Yeah, and that's right. And that's, of course, once you're into that, right, then, of course, all you need is one good ego contest, and the whole thing's going to blow up. Because really the other is not first. There's not a commitment to the other per se, or a commitment to the relationship, staying together. What you have is there's a commitment to maintaining those feelings of Eros and those ego comparative feelings of Eros that I'm getting. I like that, but of course, hey, what's this? You're making demands of me? Hey, what's this? What do you mean I got to stay home?
That's where pornography fits in so well, because it makes no demands. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it also have the same kind of thing that the experience needs to always become more intense
Yeah, yeah. I mean, once you reduce romantic relationship to feelings, and it can also be ego feelings combined with sexual feelings, right? Libidinal feelings. So once you've got this combination, I'm not saying those things are bad. I mean, obviously, marriages, have a great deal of ego feeling, which is good, and a lot of, sexual and libidinal feelings that are good. But I mean, if you reduce, romance or eros to that, then of course you're not going to ever get to a level of commitment. You're never going to get to a sustaining relationship that'll sustain a family, right? The covenant love that Saint John Paul II talked about, right? You're never going to get, that idea, that ideal of marriage that Jesus was trying to call us to. And what is that ideal of marriage? Number one, I'm looking out for you. Number two, I'm looking out after your salvation. That's as important to me and more important to me than anything else. Number three, I'm looking out for the family that we're raising together. In other words, my priorities have shifted out of mere sexual gratification, right? Mere felt sexual gratification, mere ego gratification combined with that sexual gratification. Even though it's there, it is now somehow, subordinated to the salvation of the other, subordinated to the relationship, subordinated to the children and to the family, subordinated to, the good of the other per se. And of course, then when our good, we find gratification within that priority structure, then of course, it really does not only support the commitment, sexual and ego feelings support the commitment, but they also support, really, the family that's going to benefit from it. So to make a long story short, it is complex, but it does require passing through what I call, the stage of merely sexual feelings and ego feelings.
And that's on page 37 in your book. You've got like a little chart there. And openness to the importance and inclusion of intimacy, complementarity, collaboration. And then you note sexuality, beauty, and romantic excitement are still important, but contextualized by the above, which is what you're saying. Now, the other one you mentioned earlier in the show, agape. We hear kind of like this, we should be shooting for agape love. You say agape is its own reward. How so, and what is it?
Yeah, well, first, agape is really a term that started to be used precisely because of the Christians. After Jesus gets finished defining love in the Beatitudes, and St. Paul defines it in 1 Corinthians 13, etc., once the Christian definition of love is out there, they were casting about for a word, and of course a Greek word, because they're living in a Koine Greek context in this commercial Galilean world, right? And so they're looking about for a word, and they light upon agape, because it's not a word used very often by the Greeks, and it's disposed toward Jesus's view of love. And of course, they couldn't use eros. That wasn't what Jesus really, what we've just been discussing. That's not what he was talking about when he was using love. In fact, eros is not really used in the New Testament, right? Philia is used sometimes in the Gospel of John, but not that often, and of course, storge, that's just a feeling. That's not going to work. But they find agape. And what does it mean? Essentially, it's the kind of love that doesn't have a reward built into it. So, right, in eros, I've got the romantic reward, right, the sexual reward, etc. But there's a reward that comes back to, in friendships, right, philia, there's a reward that comes back to me, the mutual commitment of the other, whereby, there's a unity with the other, whereby doing the good for them is just as easy, if not easier, than doing the good for myself. And that's a reward, so something comes, and of course, storge, it's a feeling. It kind of is a reward. My little nieces burst into the room, and I go, yay, they're here, I'm happy, I got a reward. But for agape, for Jesus, what that is I see the other as an intrinsic, mysterious, ensouled, uniquely good and uniquely lovable reality. And in seeing this in this other human being, the eyes are the windows to the soul. what happens is I'm kind of galvanized for a moment, right, by this goodness, this mystery, this uniquely good and lovable other. And what I want to do is make sure they're okay. I have a note of compassion. I want them to be okay. I want, that them somehow to that law of beneficence to apply to them. I don't want harm to come to them, certainly not through me. There's a moment then of empathy and sympathy where we're kind of galvanized by this goodness of the other. And what do we want to do? We'll do the good for the other just because the other in and of himself or herself is worth it. We call that intrinsic dignity.
Now, do we have to jump in a river to prove it?
Yeah, on occasion you might have to, but in many cases.
Well, you quoted somebody in here talking about a particular Broadway show and a story, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, but for all intents and purposes, though, yeah, poor, Gilbert. But the long and the short of it, though, is when you really get to the notion of agape, though. It really is for the other, for the sake of the other. And so agape can be the font of three kinds of love, which Jesus is very anxious for us to embrace. Number one, forgiveness. You can't derive forgiveness, right? Forgiveness occurs when somebody's done you a terrible wrong, right? You're already, you're hurt, you're wounded from something that seems to be, intentionally done to you for no good reason. Now, you can't motivate forgiveness from eros, right? You're not going to have a lot of romantic feelings for someone who's just stabbed you in the back, right? You're not going to have a lot of friendship feelings and reciprocity for someone who's just stabbed you in the back. And you're not going to feel a lot of affection for someone who stabbed you in the back. But you could have agape. You could see, even in someone who stabbed you in the back, someone who has intrinsic worth, someone who is intrinsically, uniquely good and lovable, transcendent, worthy of salvation, having an eternal soul, worth, forgiving for their own sake without getting me any reward. That would be agape. Same thing with compassion for the marginalized and the sick. There's nothing about the marginalized and the sick that's going to draw us to themselves. Like, are you going to have Aristotle's friendship for somebody who's marginalized or sick?
Think of Mother Teresa with her canonization coming up.
That's right. That's pure agape.
Right, exactly.
That's pure agape. But yeah, you're not going to motivate it out of philia or eros or storge. The only way you're going to do this.
Somebody just sent us an email I wanted to get to.
Sure.
It kind of tied into us talking about different aspects of love. And here it is. Dear Father, your book, God So Loved the World, discusses offering up our own sin. I've struggled for decades with desire and lust toward women. I've prayed, fasted, did novenas to rid this craving, but it never leaves. This is the biggest threat to my spiritual life, and I'm married and I need help. How do we help someone like that?
Yeah, well, in many cases, there may be an addiction there, especially, I don't know if pornography's part of, the profile here. It frequently is. Right. It frequently is. And of course, that is what incites things. So there are some things that can be done. There are groups that literally get together where they just pair people off together, where you're with a friend and you call each other to the responsibility of not looking at these sites, of installing these sites, of letting your friend inspect the software where these sites are eliminated and so forth, so that your friend can call you to responsibility. But the first thing you want to do is if there is some kind of pornography or something involved in it, is try and get together with someone where you can call one another to some responsibility to use very easily accessible, available software that will cut out virtually every kind of pornographic site from, your thing. And also to get rid of, there are cable channels that just call your friend's attention so that you're calling one another to not look at these kinds of things. Because, of course, they say, oh, pornography is a victimless crime. it's not a victimless crime. It's killing you. It's killing your maturation. It's killing your marriage. It's killing the time you want to spend with your spouse. These are not victimless crimes. Of course, the propaganda is from the devil himself. I'm convinced it goes in this direction. But the one thing is, try and find a friend who will work with you to get rid of those cable things or get rid of those internet things, get the appropriate software put on, stop the pornography. That's the first thing. The second thing that has to be done is this is going to be a long road. You're going to have to deal with this on a day-by-day basis, and you got to treat it in the same way you treat any other addiction. Right. Now, I'm a fan of 12-step programs, and there are 12-step programs for people who are seriously addicted to sexual things. But you don't have to get involved in that. But what you can do is exercise the discipline of a 12-step program, and that means employing some of those, therapies of Bill Wilson, which I think are very, very good, where you basically are living in the present, and not idealizing the future. Because if you think you can break the hold of pornography or sexual addiction really, super quickly, it's not going to be that easy. And there's going to have to be that same day-to-day self-assessment, self-measurement. I think groups help. And I think, at the end of the day, they work.
And at least he's taken the first step because he's identified he's got a problem, and that's usually helpful.
That's the first step.
And we only got a couple of minutes, and I want to ask you a couple of things about the book before we go.
Sure.
You dedicated the book in loving memory to my mother, but it was interesting, and your father, but you did for like two different reasons.
Yeah.
Your mother, who introduced me to the person and love of Jesus Christ, and to your father, expressed my faith in action. Why did you separate them out like that?
Well, because the two of them sort of brought different dimensions of faith to me. My mom was a believer in divine mercy. I mean, she had these books behind her bed, and I mean, she absolutely introduces me to the God of love and to a mature God of love. I shouldn't tell the story right now because I know we're short on time, but really quickly, I mean, I come up to her, I get a chain letter saying I'm going to go to hell if I don't send this chain letter out to 12 other people. So I walk up to my mother and say, Mom, I need 12 stamps. She goes, what do you need 12 stamps for? So I'm going to hell if I don't send this out. The letter says right here. And my mother looks at me and goes, do you really believe that the God of love would send you to hell for not sending out this silly chain letter? I looked at her and go, well, not really, but just in case. But I have the 12. But I mean, she taught me.
If I didn't use the proper postage, it might have. You never know. And what about your dad?
My dad, though, he's an action guy, He's one of these Harvard lawyer types, and a very logical type. And, he'd sit at the table with us and go, now let me see if I have that right. And, of course, once that statement got made, we were going to be devastated. But, of course, he taught me how to think clearly. And he taught me real prudence. And he taught me how to make goals. And he taught me how to be, what I would call a spiritual entrepreneur, though he was not necessarily a spiritual entrepreneur. He was more of a kind of a business lawyer type entrepreneur. But he had a great faith himself.
One other person I want to ask you about, who's Joan Jacoby?
Joan Jacoby is my incredible assistant who selflessly has typed every one of these 10 books that I've written, hundreds of articles, I kid you not. And not only that, she deals with me. And of course, in all of that, there is this great empathetic spiritual...
And 4 stages of love, well, at least 3 of them are happening at all at different times there. So we're just out of time. Thank you so much, Father Spitzer, for sharing your wonderful studio out here in California with me on my visit on our Father Spitzer's Universe, of course. Join us next week. We'll have another wonderful program. Thank you so much, Father. And I wanted to mention for all the people watching EWTN, don't forget we've got our coverage of Mother Teresa's canonization, the Jubilee for Volunteers in Catechesis for Mother Teresa. That's on Saturday, September 3rd at 3:30 a.m. Check out EWTN.com. Then we've got Mother Teresa, Good and Faithful Servant. This is going to a special we're putting together. Check it out, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's on Saturday the 3rd. And, of course, the big event, the canonization of Blessed Mother Teresa, Calcutta, September 4th at 4 a.m. Eastern. It'll also be repeated. And then on Monday, there's actually a massive Thanksgiving for St. Teresa of Calcutta. That's Monday, September 5th, live at 3:30 a.m., also to be repeated. And don't forget EWTN's Family Celebrations coming up later in September. And I'm Doug Keck, and we will see you next time when we re-enter Father Spitzer's universe. Take care.